What is up, guys? It is the Scarlet Duelist back again with yet another video that I'm confident calling pretty good. This is my Red Eyes Rockets profile. So finally, Red Eyes is now playable again. It is very combo heavy and it does have to summon a lot to get its plays going, but it can end on a really cool board that gives you 3 to 4 disruptions, and they're really powerful disruptions. So despite the fact that this deck cannot make like 17 negates like a lot of other combo decks and other decks like Pendulum, it is a solid contender. Its only big weakness is with this new release of the Megaton promos. You're pretty vulnerable to being Nibiru'd or Dark Ruler No More, but I will show you in the combo portion of the video how to handle being Dark Ruler No More. You can actually chain to it or figure out a way to and dodge that, but we'll talk about that more during the combo portion. Its only real weakness, guys, is being combo heavy, so that means it's got lots of vulnerabilities to hand traps and things. That's why we run 3 Called by the Grave. And its other big, I guess, gaping weakness is the fact that the new Megaton promos do exist. So you got to keep that in mind with any deck you build, though. If you summon more than 5 times or up to 5 times, you're vulnerable to those. It's kind of like the fact that Sphere Mode exists. At this point, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. So just have fun with it. As far as the tier of this deck, I would call it a solid tier 3 contender, one that would do pretty well at a locals and steal some wins at a regional, but it's probably not going to be topping any major events. But if you like Red Eyes and want a way to make them as competitive as possible, this video is for you, so enjoy. Let's get started. All right, so obviously it's a Red Eyes deck, so we're going to have 2 technically Red Eyes. I do apologize too, still working on getting the focus correct for this camera. The way that my phone likes to record, because I am using a phone for this, is it really needs something in the center to focus on. So we'll be handling that as well as we can here. So hopefully it goes well. But as I said, you've got 2 of the vanilla Red Eyes and then 1 of our Red Eyes Black Flare, just to kind of spice things up a little bit. It is a little bit better. They're essentially the same card. But the reason we have 2 of our vanilla is because we want to be sure that we can use this if it does come up, which is Malefic Red Eyes. It's basically just its own in-archetype extension at this point because we are running Guard Dragons. And you can search this by using this card. We actually, our full combos, which you'll see in the combo videos, using Black Metal Dragon, we get to abuse it and use its search ability 3 times in 1 turn. So you can search all of your Red Eyes cards, including Red Eyes Fang with Chain, which is a really solid disruption. And then you can also search Malefic Red Eyes if you do choose to do that. So we'll walk through that when the time comes. And of course, our last Red Eyes monster is our Red Eyes Darkness Metal. What's really cool about this, gosh, they're crooked. What's really cool about this card is if you see it, great. If not, you can still get a few things done and end on a solid 2 to 3 disruptions. So what's fun about getting this out is a lot of people try and stop you from doing that immediately. And then you just continue doing other things because at this point in the combo, which you'll see, you're kind of set up already to end on a pretty solid board and keep contending with your opponent. But I'll show you that later. Then we have our Rokket monsters. We have 3 Rokket Tracer. This is probably the best Rokket in the deck. It's one of those that you do have to read all the way, though. You don't want to use Rokket Tracer's effect unless you're at a point in the combo where it doesn't matter that you're locked into darks from the extra deck, or if you do use it, you do just have to keep in mind that you have to play around that new restriction, which we can do. It's just not our plan A. Our plan A is to actually make Romulus. So just keep that in mind, though. If you do end up at a point where like, well, to get my plays started, I've got no choice, use Rokket Tracer, and then you do have to keep in mind that you're locked into dark, at least from the extra deck. Next, we've got 2 Absol Router Dragon. 2 is nice because if you do draw it and another Rokket, you've got 2 dragons on the field to begin your plays, and also it searches another Rokket for you. So if you do manage to get this out before you've normal summoned, which is possible, by the way, it becomes another searchable it doesn't become one. I'm sorry, I said that wrong. It searches yet another level 4 or lower dragon for you to continue with guard dragon plays. Next, we've got 2 Magna Rokket Dragon and 1 Silver Rokket Dragon. These are just Rokket names that you can search to summon with your Rokket Tracer or search with Absa Router. And of course, we've got Rokket Synchron at a 1, just in case you do want to use it, either to go into something like Link Haribo, or if you have some synchros that you prefer to run over some of the extra deck monsters that I have, you can. Really what this is for is just to have another name that's a level 4 or lower dragon, and occasionally, if we're desperate, we can normal summon it and bring back a Red Eyes to go from there. But I don't often use Rokket Synchron for its effect. I think that's usually more, it's probably more applicable to people who are running Borreload Savage or just playing more of a pure form of Rockets. Silver Rocket's really good because it's one of those plays that you can end on to banish a card from your opponent's extra deck. So that's something that you want to keep in mind is that can be really, really good if you use it correctly and at the correct moment, mostly against Pendulum, because if you get rid of their 1 Electromite, they're definitely at least hindered from ending on a better board than they could have. But yeah, that's it for those. Next, we've got our, oh, what did I say? Or what was I going to say? Sorry, I had a moment where I just totally spaced. Oh, Silver Rokket. The reason we have it at 1 is because it's very searchable, guys. So while that effect is really, really nice and really, really good, it isn't really our plan A. Not for this deck anyway. So that's why I have it at 1. If I really choose like, oh, I need that effect, that's going to really be what wins me this game, I will search that either using Quick Launch or Rokket Tracer or even Absa Router. So there are lots of ways for us to get to it. Heck, I could even use LP if I really, really want it. So that's something to keep in mind, is keeping this at a 1 of is actually just fine. Next, we've got 1 World Chalice Guard Dragon, 1 White Dragon Wyverburster. I don't even know if I said that right. And finally, 1 Destrudo. All are cards that are just there to be extenders. While this is not searchable, if you do see it, you automatically are going to get to play it because you pretty much always have a dark monster in your grave. World Chalice Guard Dragon is a really good utility card for a lot of reasons. It can be something that helps from help you, oh my goodness, help you be protected, can help you be protected from being targeted as long as the monsters are linked, and we can usually manage that. So it can double as a hand trap, and then while it's in the grave, we can obviously use that to bring back a Red Eyes to further extend. And this is also a 1-for-1 target, so that's something that's really, really good. You get to use it twice if you do see it a lot of the time. And obviously, you know what Destrudo does. Destrudo is searchable and sendable with a lot of our other cards, so that's why we only have it at 1. It's a really good card. Next, as more extenders, we've got Crusadia Draco at 2 because it's a level 4 or lower dragon. Wow, I have not been able to talk for the majority of this video. If you're still here, I applaud you for sticking with it. We have it at 2 because you can only use its effect to special summon itself once per turn. So you don't want to see this too much. It's one of those where, just like White Dragon, it's great if you see it, but you don't want to necessarily see it all the time. We would probably run this at 2 if we could, but it's limited. So, alas, we're stuck at this. But there are some extenders for you to ensure that you do end up with a level 4 or lower dragon on board to continue your guard dragon plays. Next, we've got 2 Darkworm. Just because it sucks if you draw him, unless you just draw that great hand where you search out the donut here and then can pendulum summon out some of your lower level dragons. But the chances of that happening all at once perfectly are pretty small just because of the way that ratios work. So we have him at 2, just in case you do see him. You can still make sure that 1 hits the graveyard so that you can special summon it, search this to have a card to discard for Dragon Ravine, and so on. But yeah, that's pretty much it. And our last monster is a Morphic Goliath. This is here to search off of Heavenly Spheres to further keep your opponent from being able to disrupt your board and go into their place. So it's very oppressive. Unfortunately, while this deck isn't the 7 negate break my board play style, it is one of those that does have to build a big board presence to be effective. I don't wish that, but that's kind of just how this deck has to function to be in any way competitive. So unfortunately, guys, if you want to play Red Eyes, it's kind of a must-have. And the Morphic Goliath helps us do that with the Heavenly Spheres bounce and then special summon, so that's why we have that in there. If you don't like that style of playing, definitely don't play this deck, but if you don't mind it and it gives you a chance to play Red Eyes and you like that, keep going with it. Next, let's go into spells. We've got one Dragon Ravine. That is because it is searchable when we make Romulus. We can just get it, so it's fine at one. If you really want it like all the time and you don't feel like using Romulus, go ahead and run more of them, but I personally haven't found that to be necessary. What's cool about it is if you do get it with a Romulus play, great, but you don't necessarily have to see it to get your plays going. And that's one thing that's better now about the Red Eyes build than the previous Red Eyes Guard Dragon build that I've done and that others had done. You don't have to rely on getting Darkworm to the graveyard in order to play. You can do other things, which is really nice. Next, we've got 3 Dragon Shrine. Just because we do like to do that play. Obviously, it's fun and it's an easy way to get plays going. We want to max out the ability to do that. But like I said before, if you don't, it's not the biggest deal. You can get things done other ways. But this maximizes our ability to get that Darkworm to the grave as well as a Red Eyes monster to bring back later. So that's really nice. Next, we've got Foolish Burial to really just send what you need. You might need to send a Darkworm, you might need to send a Strudo, you might need to send your Absol you name it. You send that then, and then you've got whatever you need in the graveyard. Kind of self-explanatory. Then we've got 3 Quick Launch. Really good for play starting and really good as something to keep set too in order to overcome Dark Ruler No More. So as I mentioned before, this deck can overcome Dark Ruler No More in a number of ways. This is one of them. So what you do is you can set this and then activate it after your opponent would activate Dark Ruler No More. And then if you happen to have made your Hot Red, you then can chain Hot Red to this card, targeting Dark Ruler No More, and negate that card because you're no longer chaining Hot Red to the actual card Dark Ruler No More. You're chaining Hot Red to this, and therefore its ability is now able to go off. So something to keep in mind. Quick Launch has a lot of utility beyond even play starting. It's an extender as well, and just what I just explained. Then we have 1 for 1, just again as another play starter. If you do happen to just not run into what you need, you can bring out World Chalice Guard Dragon or Black Metal Dragon or even your Rokket Synchron with this card and get what you want in the graveyard if you happen to draw a Destrudo or something like that. Then we've got Monster Reborn and Dragon's Mirror. This is to bring out Borreload Furious. And we've got other cards that can do it too, which is why this is at 1. Monster Reborn is Monster Reborn. You know what it is. Then we've got 3 Allure just for consistency reasons. We are running a 45 card deck to keep ratios where they should be. It's consistent enough that you can play the deck well, and it's not just hoping for a 10% like God Hand play like a lot of the Guard Dragon Red Eyes stuff was before. But Allure does help keep that consistent because you are running a 45 card deck to keep ratios from being where you brick by drawing the cards that you'd rather search, but also still keeping consistency where it should be. Next, we've got 3 Called by the Grave because we don't like being hand trapped. It kind of sucks. So you got this at max. You hope to see it, and if you don't, you hope your opponent doesn't have a hand trap, and that's just pretty much it, guys. That's just normal Yu-Gi-Oh! These days. That's how it goes. Next, we've got 1 Red Eyes Fang with Chain because it's searchable off of Black Metal Dragon. This will be one of your 3 to 4 interruptions that you can end on, and it's super powerful because you get to steal your opponent's monster, and that's just it. They just lost it. And then whatever Red Eyes monster you've equipped that to, it changes their attack and defense points to that. And then finally, we are running 3 Necrofusion to increase our chances of making Borreload Furious Dragon either on our turn or on our opponent's turn. If you have Dragon's Mirror, you'll do it on your own turn, and if you have Necrofusion, you'll do it on your opponent's turn, and that gives you yet another interruption to stop your opponent's plays. All right, that's it for the main deck. Like I said, 45 cards. It's pretty consistent, but you had to have 45 in order to keep from seeing cards that you'd definitely rather send or search. So that's why we have it at 45, and it's still not hurt the consistency too much. Next, we've got from our extra deck, Red Eyes, Black, nope, said it wrong. Red Eyes, Flare Metal Dragon. I looked at the card, which is in fact black, and I said it wrong. Then we've got Hot Red Dragon Archfiend and First of the Dragons. This is probably the one that you'll make the most out of the three. Next in line being Odd Eyes Vortex Dragon. But if you used Rokket Tracer, you cannot make Vortex, which is why you would make Hot Red instead. Or if you're expecting that your opponent is running Dark Ruler no more, you'll make Hot Red instead because you can target that and negate it after a sequence of events where you've activated a spell or trap in response, which we'll talk about in the combo video. Then we've got Overload Furious because you can make this using Necrofusion or Dragon's Mirror, and it's just another way to disrupt your opponent. You get a free pop. Next, we've got our Guard Dragon package, and you know what these do. Not going to explain them. You've seen them a little while. They'll probably end up on the ban list, but for now, we'll play them. Then we've got Wee Witch's Apprentice. In case you do use Rokket Tracer's effect, you want to have at least a dark monster that points down like this with 2 arrows, so that's why we've got Wee Witch. We've got Delindrous Dragon and Quad Boral, because these actually have a combo together where it's an automatic link 4, which I'll explain later on in combo videos. And then finally, we've got Hieratic Seal of the Heavenly Spheres, Romulus, Triple Burst, and then we've got a Boral Guard. So Hieratic Seal is another disruption you can end on as long as you did not use Rokket Tracer's effect. And you can definitely get your combos going without using that effect. With all of my playtesting, I've been able to do it. Where you get a bounce and then special summon your Morphic Goliath from deck. Romulus is really good to go into because it's got the pointing down arrows and it searches out your Dragon Ravine. And it's got that nifty little special summoning effect. We don't use it often though because it kind of just takes up space on the board. You can't really use it for anything. So we kind of ignore that. There are situations where I've used it, but those are kind of those situational calls that you'll just have to make in very specific situations and duels. Then we've got Triple Burst for that down pointing arrow to get our Guard Dragon plays going and continuing. And then I've chosen Boral Guard, and a lot of people I know are going to be like, why not Boral Load or Boral Sword? This is actually not a budget choice. This is actually just because I like the fact that it cannot be destroyed by card effects, and it can still work well with our Silver Rokket play, which is the only time we make Boral Guard. So Boral Guard is a really good choice for this specific deck, okay? I know that overall, objectively, Boral Load and Boral Sword are better cards. I'm not arguing that point. But when you make Silver Rokket or Boral Load Furious, this is really effective for both of them because you can use Boral Load Furious to target this and then your opponent's card and destroy both, but this won't be destroyed, so you just got a free pop. Then you can use Boral Guard to target your Silver Rokket and switch it to defense mode, and then Silver Rokket will then go off and then destroy itself to banish a card from your opponent's extra deck. So this one I just found had more utility in one, especially going first. So, and even if you don't use it for either of those effects, it's got that pseudo disruption of targeting your opponent's monster and switching it to defense mode. So at the minimum, it can't attack you. So that's something to keep in mind when you're making these choices. You can always switch this out for something you like better. Maybe you want to put Appaloosa in here. It'd be kind of tough, but if you really feel like doing something else, that was mostly a joke. Don't do that. It would not run well because you're playing dragons and guard dragons lock you. Don't do what I just said. It was a joke. It was a bad one. I regret everything. All right. Yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. That's the deck profile. Hopefully you enjoyed it. I will go over combos in another video very soon. Thanks for watching. If you liked it, give it a like, subscribe, and see ya.